Hello and welcome to another update. In this one I'll be covering the whole front line, starting out in the northern parts, where the Russian forces continue their attacks in the direction of Ryanikivka, and they've also started attacking Sinkivka, here to the south. If you're wondering how come the Ukrainian forces pulled out of Ryanikivka, yet the Russian forces are unable to take it, that is because the only thing between Ryanikivka and the Ukrainian forces is this river line here, which means that the Ukrainian forces are just launching attacks from across the river line into Ryanikivka, and it's not clear whether these forest lines to the south have been cleared yet. So there's a lot of possibilities for the Ukrainians to just attack any advancing Russian soldiers. So most likely they'll take it soon. However, the Ukrainian forces are attacking them from across the river line, which makes it difficult and slow for them to take it. Further south in the direction of the Kremina area, we see that the Russian forces are attacking the Ukrainian positions southwest of Plushenka, then to the west in the direction of Torske, and according to the Ukrainian Ministry of Defense, they're closing in on Serebryansk, which is this forest area village here to the southwest of Kremina. And finally, they're also attacking Bilohorivka in the Luhansk region, where they try to recapture the village after the Ukrainians recaptured it after the Russians originally captured it back in the summer. To the north of Vuhledar, the Russian forces continued their attacks in the direction of Vesele, Rostelivka, and Fedorivka. After the Russian forces captured the river line here to the northwest of Vuhledar, the Russian forces are now attacking in the direction of Selishnianske and southwest towards Berehivka, and they're taking to the south of Pereskovivka, as well as to the very northern outskirts of Bakhmut, to the northeast and east of Bakhmut in the residential areas, and to the southwest of Bakhmut in the cemetery area. They are also continuing the attacks in the direction of Jessev Yar towards the northwest of Ivanivske as they try to fight over the highway. There's been some reports of a Ukrainian counterattack, but there's been no news about any territorial gains or losses through that time for either side, which means that I'm keeping the map as is until there's been clear reports. According to the Ukrainian Ministry of Defense, the Russian forces are also attacking the direction of Delivka, which is estimated to be in this one, as there's a second Delivka right next to it. And since they're right next to each other with the same name, it is only logical to think it is this one, as it is west of Kurtyomivka, and the Russian forces will not attack this one without having this one first. Further south in the direction of the Donetsk front, there's a lot of fighting ongoing here, as Russian forces are attacking in the direction of Avdiivka, as well as to the northwest of Vodiane, as well as Pervomaiske, as the fighting continues in these areas. As for the Marinka area, the Russian forces managed to capture these warehouses to the northern outskirts of Marinka, as they try to flank it from the north, and at the same time they're trying to expand the zone of control to the southwest of Marinka, as they try to flank it from that way as well. So the current operation seems to be something along the lines of reaching into the bridge here to the northwest of Marinka, where they will be able to cut that off, and at the same time doing an envelopment from the south, where they will flank the rest of Marinka and try to capture it that way, as they have changed their tactics from storming the city directly, which is just an endless slaughter. Fighting continues in the direction of Pubieda, which is to the southwest of Marinka, and the Russian forces are continuing their attacks in the direction of Novomikhailivka. And finally, in the direction of the Vuhledar front, we see that the Russian forces are attacking in three different axes. The first one straight to Vuhledar, to the southeastern area of Dacha. And if we look at satellite images, so these are some satellite images of the Vuhledar area. We see here that the Russian forces have completely obliterated the Dacha area before entering it. And as we can see, there's no cover for any forces in this area. And then in the Vuhledar area itself, it is largely intact. So this means that this is most likely both sides launching artillery strikes into this Dacha area, as the Russian forces launch artillery strikes before entering it, and then the Ukrainian forces launch artillery strikes when the Russian forces entered it. So it has been the main target for artillery from both sides. And at the same time, we see that the Vuhledar area is largely intact, and that's because of the Soviet engineering high-rise buildings, which is residential buildings. These were all built to withstand heavy explosions, as they built them after the Second World War, where they realized that a city like Stalingrad, where they make these Kami blocks, are extremely powerful when it comes to war, as it is very difficult to pass through them. Vuhledar itself is a city with only these types of buildings, as we can see, which makes it a fortress of a city when it comes to this part of the front line. Now moving on to the fighting in Prechestivka, as the Russian forces are trying to gain further control over the highway between Pavlivka and Velyka Novosilka, and they're also attacking in the direction of Novosilka, which is to the west of Velyka Novosilka, as they try to gain control over the choke point of the road between the Zaporizhia and the Donetsk region here to the south, as the next road after this one is the one to the north that goes through Perebudova and Bibud, which goes through this northern area, which would make it a longer road rather than just this small one that goes directly between Hulyaipole and Velyka Novosilka. So the current situation is that the Russian forces are attacking in 5 different directions. The one to the south, which is the Vuhledar front, the Russian forces are attacking in 3 different directions on a small scale, where they are trying to hold the Ukrainian forces here to the south. At the same time, they have 3 large-scale attacks, which is the ones in the Donetsk front, in the Bakhmut front, and in the Kremina front. In the Kremina front, they are trying to reach the river line and take the control over the forest line to the southwest of Kremina, completely securing the city before launching a further attack in the direction of Liman, as well as the Oskil river line. In the Bakhmut sector, the fighting continues heavily on the whole front line, from the south to the northern edge of it, as they try to take control over the city and advance to the Sloviansk-Konstantinivka line, as they try to expand the zone of control and bypass Siversk by attacking from the southern area and through the E40 highway towards Sloviansk, encircling the forces. And then in the Donetsk front itself, the Russian forces are trying to push the Ukrainians back to create a buffer zone between the city of Donetsk and the Ukrainian forces, as well as bypass the defenses that the Ukrainians have set up for a lot of years. Having these heavily fortified positions greatly strengthens the Ukrainian forces as they try to withstand the Russian invasion and keep the Russians from advancing. Advancing in this direction will be a target of Pokrovsk, where they will try to cut off the main supply line to the Donetsk region, and at the same time attacking Sloviansk will cut off the supplies from the north, meaning that the Russian forces are attempting to reach the supply lines of these 2 areas. With these 2 axes of attack, and attacking from the north allows them to have a strong flank, which will allow them to push further southwestwards in the direction of Izium, as they've had previously held, which will allow them to bypass the whole Donetsk region. So if there is no large-scale Russian offensive coming, then this is exactly what they're going to be aiming for, just a slow but steady advance within the Donetsk region as they try to recapture what they've lost in the Kharkiv offensive and try to bypass and encircle the whole Donetsk region by attacking from the southern and northern axis. And that is all for today's update. Thank you all for watching and have a great day.